what I can only describe as like the whitest funk dancing I've ever seen. And the man's not white. That's what's sad about it. I'm like, bro, I don't know what your ethnic origin is, but like, I feel like you should know better.
He's a dinosaur!
We had a point to make about, what was it, about behind the scenes, the real life stories of wrestlers. Now, I'm not even going to get into the Benoit story because everybody knows the Benoit story. It's actually, we could go into that actually, the formative days of our friendship, going around asking people if they know who Chris Benoit is. It was just like a general knowledge quiz.
It was, and it kind of, this is only in hindsight, I think it marks a generational gap because certain members of that team would have seen it on the news. The rest would have been my age or your age.
Yeah, in fact, Benoit and Eddie Guerrero's death. Now, this is going to be a throwback to the real UK fans. I remember being announced, both of their deaths, on the Chris Moyle show in the morning. Yeah, I used to wake up to that. Yeah, to Moylesy.
That must have been a shit drive in the car.
I know, it'd be like the first thing. I'd still be like at home, and I remember like
on like your alarm clock.
It was like first thing in the morning, and it was like a breaking news thing. And like honestly, I thought I was dreaming because never in my wildest dreams I think that wrestling, that thing that like not many people I even knew were into or watched, was being talked about, let alone being announced as breaking news on the radio. Yeah. I'm not sure about Benoit's as much, but I definitely remember Eddie Guerrero's.
I'm the opposite because I remember Chris Benoit's, and I remember not believing it.
You thought it was kayfabe?
It's a work, brother. Don't work yourself into a shoot, brother.
He's coming back, and then he's gonna win the world title again, the bastard. What's that? His wife and his kid? What?
Well, we only found that out like 2 days later.
Yeah,
so.
to be fair. He could have been Vince McMahoning us, but ironically didn't it interrupt the Vince McMahon fake death thing?
It happened in the week after Vince's fake death. So
it's almost like it's like somewhere in terms of like, I'm not a religious person or someone who believes in, I don't know, karma or anything like that, but I do think there's some sort of chaos god maybe that exists that just sees things, not like a devil or a Satan or anything, but just sees things and just goes, "Oh, fuck with them. Fuck with them on this one." And sometimes it's natural disaster. Sometimes it's an absolute tragedy in the form of someone just randomly deciding to commit horrendous murder and suicide. But like, it's when you look at the facts and the circumstances surrounding these events, you're like, is someone making this up? Is someone writing this reality? Because I swear to God, like, how could those two things coincide? Why did those two things coincide?
This is booking. This is someone has like actively planned this shit. You know? Like, even with Eddie, like, maybe not on the same level, but the Chaos God must have been feeling really angry at us because we were supposed to get Kurt versus Eddie at WrestleMania 22 before he died. And he just said, "Fuck you lot." So we didn't get that. And then on a slightly less upsetting note, Chris Benoit killed his family. So,
wow.
Cancelled. Straight away. First episode.
We're done. We're done for. Sorry, everybody. This will be the last episode of SmarkZ. But yeah, like, obviously, you got the dark side of wrestling that looks at the Benoit story, and I've come to learn about, a lot more disturbing, not more disturbing, but like, more disturbing stories than I thought. And I think actually it was one of the things that got me back into wrestling. Not the fact that people were killing people or dying or anything like that. No, it was just the fact that, like, almost like ignorantly, I hadn't considered that, like, these people are real people with real lives that, not just dedicating themselves to like their fitness and health and like, safe work in terms of wrestling and, the stuff that they actually do, but they have real lives as well. There's normal real lives. And like, the amount of wrestlers there's not to be rude, but there's going to be things that slip through the cracks. There's going to there's going to be individuals that, you know, whose lives don't quite pan out as well as others. And
as well as you'd like them to as well.
Yeah, you know, it's super unfortunate, you know, it's super sad, but I think like with it, it's almost like it's almost like it is the dark side of wrestling at the end of the day. Like there's just a dark side and there's a lot of stories. Not all that I know about.
Yeah.
I recently have been trying to watch the dark side of wrestling on that Vice did, but I haven't actually gotten around to it.
I'm in the same boat, man. I don't know what episodes. I know there's Owen Hart. Owen Hart we could talk about for days. I don't know if you've seen any of his wrestling.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like so Owen Hart was like, so funny enough, almost going back, like Owen Hart, when I was watching wrestling, Owen Hart was almost like, not like a myth, but he was almost like an urban legend, like but not an urban legend because he did actually die, but it was almost like,
you've got to see this guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, everyone talks about Bret Hart. He's one of the greatest ever. But then you'll always have that one guy in the trench coat at the back of the bar going,
Owen Hart was better.
Yeah.
He was a better technical wrestler than Bret.
And he had a good point, but he's in a trench coat and he might not be wearing any clothes underneath it, so you can't agree with him.
But he might be right about Owen's death is like I said, I knew about it and I knew about Owen Hart. I'd seen Owen Hart wrestling. Obviously, I saw him in games because I grew up playing a lot of like, you know, the N64 wrestling games and stuff. And what I didn't know about his death was like, it was part of like a gimmick in that sense. Like, you know, I always, because it was like talked about and I was a kid, I always thought like, I envisioned that like, I don't know, it was part of like a bad spot. Like they were trying to do something really high up and he fell and died. And then
like a shark cage match or something where he's above
like,
the ring.
Only to find out that like, not only was it something that like people do and have done and have survived many a times in wrestling, not even outside of wrestling, but in wrestling, you know.
Logan Paul did something similar at this WrestleMania. Like, you know?
Like Sting does like the whole going up and down, he used to do that all the time. But like only to find out like, I don't know, I think to me it's almost like a dark, sad side to it for me is like, he wasn't even like performing as Owen Hart. It was like, he was doing like a whole other gimmick that isn't even looked back on fondly by fans. I think that's the saddest part of it to me.
Even the gimmick was the blue blazer, which I think has been portrayed by other wrestlers throughout history. Kind of like Dwight the Clown.
Yeah.
Except not terrifying.
And Kane and the Undertaker, but you know, not intentionally being clones.
What?
No, as in like, you know, we've had fake Kane and fake
fake Kane. You got fake Diesel, fake Razor Ramon.
Yeah, like doing the fake thing, but like this one is like, yeah. Also the what's his name? Sin Cara.
Sin Cara.
Oh, I actually want to do a whole thing on Sin Cara because like he's someone I do and don't know about. Like,
do you know what they called the fake Sin Cara?
Sin Cara.
No, well, the two Sin Caras had a match.
Wait, what?
There was Sin Cara. And there was Sin Cara. Do you know what color his attire was?
No.
It was black. Look, do you know what language he speaks?
Oh no.
Do you know what they called him?
No face black, but in Spanish. Or without face black, but in Spanish.
Yeah.
Sin Cara Negro.
Yes, that's him.
Ah, Jesus Christ. Wrestling.
See, I was upset this week on Raw when I heard Michael Cole saying, go to wwe.co.uk. But then I remember that he used to say Sin Cara, that word, on a regular basis.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Be nice to Michael Cole.
Jesus Christ, man. Anyway, that was a whole tangent. Like the point being the dark side of wrestling. And yeah, like I didn't realize that I'm not sure if I'm getting 100% right, but like just going back to the Blue Blazer thing, it was almost a thing because basically like Owen Hart sort of stocks were sort of dropping as a performer. If I remember correctly, post Screwjob.
You're kind of right. His stocks were dropping, but off of a peak.
Right.
Like, and that drop felt very, very artificial. It was kind of like after the screw job, they had Owen coming out, and he was like full of fire. He was ready to fuck over mainly DX, I think it was, Vince, Shawn, and he came out as the Black Heart. What a name. Owen Hart, the Black Heart. He's got vengeance in his eyes. He's going to avenge his brother who's working in WCW now. And for a while, I think it worked. But then they kind of just, fuck you, Owen. So
did Princess Diana his ass? Come on, someone had to say it. I'm sure not the first person. I can't be the first person to suggest. Did they kill Owen Hart?
They could have.
Come on, we need views, man. We need views.
Here's my 10 steps to how to kill her. No. Bear in mind, there was a year and a half between the screw job and Owen's death. So this was a slow, gradual decline in terms of his stardom. They acknowledged all the way through the Blue Blazer thing that it was Owen Hart. He got unmasked on screen like a few days before.
Weird.
By Steve Blackman.
Oh, Steve Blackman. Loved him. I used his name.
Of course he did. Black Zach.
Blackman.
Steve Zachman.
It's a legit last name. It's not racist.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem for you. It's a problem for me.
I've never met a black man with the last name Blackman though. Isn't that weird? It's always a white guy.
Blackman.
Anyway, getting unmasked by a Blackman. Like, yeah, the Owen Hart story is it's not that dark. It's just like I suppose it's a level 1 unfortunate story that just also happens to be of a plethora of unfortunate deaths.
Yeah,
come from WWE.
One of the most tragic ones. But in terms of being, it's right at the top of the rabbit hole. And I got one maybe that it's not at the bottom of the rabbit hole.
Top and bottom of the rabbit holes.
There's never a bottom of the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
but there's one that's maybe like a few yards down the rabbit hole. If you were to stick your head in, you might find out about it. But you wouldn't know all about it. Now, you know the wrestler Jimmy Snuka, right?
Snuka, yes. Snooker.
Jimmy Snuka.
I used to call it Snooker until very, very recently when you just said Snooker.
As Chaz and Dave said, Snooker loopy nuts is he.
Did he not? Am I correct in thinking that he trained The Rock?
I don't know.
Google it. We have the internet. Come on, we haven't used Google this whole fucking podcast.
That's why it's going so well. But
come on, let's Rogan this shit. The Rock trained by. Imagine its first result is his dog. The Rock was trained by his dog. No, I'm wrong. He was trained by Pat Patterson.
That's really boring. I don't like the idea of anyone being trained by Pat Patterson because his name's Pat Patterson.
Wait, no.
That's Blackman. Pat Patterson is just Blackman.
I am wrong. Yeah, he was trained by Pat Patterson.
Okay, that's fine. But you think of the things that you know Snuka for, that leap from the cage.
Yeah. I remember him, like, obviously I never really watched any Snooker. I remember playing him in that wrestling, I don't know what it's called. It was like some All-Star Legends game.
Legends of Wrestling.
The one that was basically a wrestling game intentionally on the steroids. It was actually very fun.
Not WWE All-Stars.
Yeah, All-Stars. The one where, like, all the moves, like, you jumped, like, 1,000 meters into the air, and, like, you know, you did a pedigree and you jumped 10,000 meters into the air. But yeah, it had, like, a
biblically accurate Scott Steiner.
Oh, What a reference. Biblically accurate Scott Steiner. God, there's not a room in the world that could contain that. Just muscles on muscles.
He's got a 29 pack and he's not even started flexing.
All natural though. All natural steroids.
It was a real needle that went into him.
Yeah, to be fair, it was the needle was natural. Naturally sourced. Of course, go. But yeah, I remember Snuka on that, and yeah, his dives on that were just like insane. Like, and obviously I have seen random highlights and somewhat remember he was inducted to the Hall of Fame like at some point. So I remember the Hall of Fame was like started up again when I was watching wrestling.
Yeah, it's always been an entertaining thing, the Hall of Fame, but it kind of gained traction around 2004-05.
Yeah.
It would have been people like your Andre the Giants, your Hulk Hogan's, your Rickles, Captain Ricky Flair.
Your Rickles.
I don't know why that's burned into my head. It's from Vengeance 2002. Hulk Hogan calls Ric Flair Rickles, and that stayed with me for life.
I actually saw your Uncle Fester reference for the first time like a couple of weeks ago.
What? Uncle Fester Kane?
Yeah.
Have you never seen Kane
Booker
sing?
T calls him Uncle Fester.
Does he?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I didn't realize you didn't know that. I thought that's where you're getting it from. But yes, there's
No.
Kane had attacked him or something, or like, yeah. Yeah, Kane attacked him because Kane was mad at him about eliminating from the Royal Rumble or something like that, or winning the Royal Rumble. And then the week later, Booker T comes out, calls him out, and he's like, Kane, I know you're out there with your Uncle Fester looking ass.
That's a burial. How do you come back from that?
You don't. And I was like, oh, that's where Steven got it from. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty solid. Like, I loved that era of Kane still, but he did look like some Uncle Fester on steroids.
Was it original on Mask Kane, where he had like the towel over his head?
Yeah.
That was sick. That was honestly fucking great.
He was great. And like, you know what? Rewatching it now is even more fun because, like, at the time, I had very mixed feelings about unmasking Kane. Like, he was my favorite wrestler, and his whole thing was like, especially back then where there was like no behind the scenes, like there was none of that, and like, you get like cards and you get these little bios about wrestlers, and it was always interesting that like Kane had no like from
parts unknown.
Yeah, parts unknown, and like literally everything about him was just obscured, and like you hadn't seen his face. Like it just made him even more. He was the one person who was more mysterious than the Undertaker, and that was great. And then they unmasked him, and I was like, And then
he's a guy with a receding hairline.
And then they sort of went crazy with him, and he then became like a raging lunatic, and like I had mixed feelings about that. And then I sort of came round to it, and then they had him cry because the Undertaker was coming back, and then I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, what's going on?
I buried you alive.
Yeah, like he's talking too much now. This guy couldn't even talk when he first came out. Now he's ranting. Jesus Christ, guys.
Fuck it.
Honestly, but yeah, I got my original point. I really had.
Me too.
No. I rewatching it now, I realized that he actually did like have a minor transformation, because like he had just generally just been like a super heavyweight sort of guy.
Yes.
And then during this era, and I sort of like, respect to him. Like I didn't realize the age these guys were. Like, as a kid watching wrestlers, all these men were like 40, and they all were 40 until I realized, oh yeah, wait, adults have different ages too. And that affects them. And now I'm an adult. I'm like, okay, so Kane at my peak era was like in his 30s.
Yes.
Like late 30s. And so when he debuted, he was in his late 20s. And he was just a big body guy. So when he got unmasked, he got swole as fuck. This man was looking hench. And I didn't even...
The iconic belly button. The outie.
But like, considering, because obviously I think as a kid, I only really like considered someone buff if they had a six pack. But looking back at it now, I'm like, no, Kane was a fucking unit back then. Like he was huge, and like he was ripped as fuck. And I was like, damn, he did all that for the character. Like
it's only when you get to that age where you realize how hard it is to keep in shape.
Yes, and that's what I realized. Like, he went from being a big body guy in his late 30s, who'd probably been big most of his life, looking back at, like, you know, all Glenn Jacobs' old characters and
Isaac
like,
Yankum DDS.
He'd always just been a big body guy, like sort of like Big Show. He did a reverse though. He just got hench. Like, yes, he went back to being sort of big again 10 years down the line, but I was like, during that era, Kane, Uncle Fester Kane, he was a beast.
Yeah. I would kill for a fucking physique like that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, I would be happy with that bod, like, throughout, like, my 30s and 40s. I'd be very happy to have the Kane Uncle Fester body. I might even aspire to it, you know?
Right, I mean,
It's got to get taller.
also, how did we get to this?
Just laughing at references and...
Oh, okay, yeah, because I was going to say, the last thing I remember is fucking WWE All-Stars.
Yeah, so... Yeah, Snuka. What happened with Snuka? That was actually the whole point.
So, how about we build an image of Snuka?
I only know he's supposed to be an absolute legend. That was supposed to be...
Absolute legends. Probably one of those... When you think of, like, you know, your dad, he watched WWF in the 80s. I remember when Jimmy Snuka jumped from the cage. Do you remember the loincloth trunks?
Yeah. I remember
the long curly hair.
Gimmick. Yeah, like...
When he killed his girlfriend in 1980s.
Sorry, what? when he did what now?
So...
this isn't even me acting. I'm like, sorry, what?
Jimmy Snuka, hooker killer.
Headlines. I can see it now. Doing this in Vince's voice, obviously. Jimmy Snuka, hooker killer.
It's such good shit.
Tell me this is kayfabe, right? Like,
no,
to work this into an angle similar to like Kane raping or killing a dead body and killing.
They did find traces of semen on her body, apparently.
Yeah, fucking
Katie Vick.
hell, guys! Like, my god,
drop the kayfabe. Jimmy Snuka killed his girlfriend.
So this is real.
This is real.
When did this come to light? Did WWE cover this up? Is this a fucking like?
I believe so.
This is a Savile job. Like they knew all along.
This happened in around 84 or so, 83.
We're going to need a disclaimer on that one. Like, the BBC did not cover up Jimmy Savile's atrocious. Like,
fun fact: my ex is from Otley, which is where Jimmy Savile's from. Ish, cut that.
Pay your TV licenses.
We'll say first half of the 80s. Jimmy Snuka has I'm going to say a 3.5 star match rated by Dave Meltzer. He comes backstage. He's not very happy. And his girlfriend is right there. And then it gets a little bit more grounded in reality, and they have a massive fucking argument. And he kills her.
Because he lost a match?
No. Because he can.
Okay, so did he... I'm asking you, like, you've investigated this fully. I'm sure you know way more, but so did he get arrested?
Yeah. Oh, he definitely got arrested. And this was one of those things where you got to bear in mind, I find it quite funny in the sense that, you know how kayfabe back then was gospel?
Yeah.
And they could get away with anything. So was the law. So
well, yeah, this was like the era of like, hey, you're a famous person.
Yeah.
You can shit on the street.
Oh, it's a woman you killed. Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Superfly Snuka, bro.
Climb up, jump for a Superboy.
Fuck, man. So wait, okay. So aside from the fact that like he got arrested, and then was just like freed?
Yeah.
Acquitted? Yeah, cool.
There wasn't enough evidence.
So I've grown up.
He was drinking her blood, but you know.
I've grown my whole life and never heard this story. So when did this story come to light?
I want to say 2014.
Oh, fuck off. This is a full Savile, bro. When did Jimmy Snuka die?
Bold of you to assume he is dead. I think like 2019.
Oh, fuck. Okay. I know he's dead. I know he's dead for sure.
That'd be a fun game to play. Is that wrestler dead or not?
It's funny because I actually have played this game. We'll get onto that.
Next time on the SmarkZ podcast.
You can only play it with 90s wrestlers, but because reasonably they should still be alive. At their peak would have been 20s and 30s, 30 years on, they'd be in their 50s and 60s. So many are dead. So many dead. I feel like I'm talking about a war, like so many perished.
I've seen things.
Right, so 30 years until this is public knowledge.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Fuck indeed. It's...
Oh, I've got a theory. I've got a good one. I reckon Jimmy knew what Vince was up to. And
back then?
At some point. And he tries, or maybe Jimmy gets, I don't know, Jimmy's done something. He's pissed him off. He's pissed Vincey off. And Vincey's like, you know what? Just to cover myself up, because I know you're one of the people that knows about my antics, I'm unleashing the story. I'm unleashing the Hooker story. Just to give myself a good 9 years to cover myself. Just try and get rid of a few documents, silence a few women.
I need to get Roman a few more years with a title.
And, but no, seriously, man, that's fucking crazy. Ah, man, like I think this is a bit of a tangent, but like there's a point of relevancy here, and the relevancy is $1 billion sports companies having too much power. I don't know if you've seen. There's a doc on Netflix about like dark side of sports. One of them that covers a dirty ref in the NBA.
No,
well. Dirty ref is a debatable. It's out there for people to discuss. But essentially, a referee in the NBA was betting on games that he was officiating and other games he wasn't officiating as well. Now, he didn't win every bet. I'm just gonna give you the short. He didn't win every bet. He'd been doing it for about about 5 years, whatever. Made a lot of money, whatever. Got caught. Got fired, massive investigation. The people that he was betting with were mob people as well. It got really dirty. It got really dodgy. Now, the funny thing about this documentary is that despite the fact that it's sort of trying to give you the story, both sides of the story, all the people involved, so you can have your own opinion whether or not you consider what he was doing cheating, that's not the point of this documentary. And I feel like Netflix knows what they're doing with this documentary, because throughout this documentary, they obviously reach out to the NBA for statement, and the NBA just give blanket statements. They're not really like the first one being, "This story has already been covered and reported on. We do not feel the need," Now Netflix obviously have done their research, because it's actually like a 15-year-old story, and this came out about last year. And the funny thing about it to me is when the FBI get involved
in the documentary.
In this whole investigation, because the funny thing about there's a clause around most professional sports that people officiate, things like that, are not allowed to bet on sports.
Yes,
in general, they're just
the
not
whole
allowed.
Ivan Toney thing in the UK at the moment.
So when this happened, and what was actually funny is like the FBI were triggered by the investigation because of the bank transfers between the ref and the guy he was betting through, who was mob associated, but when the investigation hit the NBA, things got a bit murky. Things got very weird and very murky. And the problems that started to arise were when the main investigator from the FBI, I might be getting this story, I've had a few drinks, but like the main investigator for this guy from the FBI pretty much says that like the NBA sort of shut down this investigation quite heavily, because they didn't like they basically sort of want to deal with it in-house. Not only that, they also offered the investigator a job. Weird. Why does the NBA need an FBI investigator on their payroll? Fuck knows. But the weird thing to me that really it sort of became apparent is that when you're in a position of power and you have a company that is that powerful, that big, that popular, you can circumvent certain aspects of the law. It's like, it's like that whole like we were joking, like celebrities can sort of get away with murder potentially. It's like, but this is bigger than that. This is like the law enforcement have been involved, but you can still sort of get away with it to a degree.
We're going to turn a blind eye to that.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that law?
So my question comes, like, you know, aside from like, you know, did Snuka killed a woman? Fine. I'm sure that's
absolutely fine, you know.
Did Vince know? 100%. Did Vince continue to employ the man and put him on?
Yes, he did.
After the murders. Yes.
Of course he did.
How many people within the WWE, WWF at the time, whatever, knew about this, and how many people were complicit to covering things up? The reason I asked that question is because if that's within the culture of the company, how many things and where do you draw the line on cover-ups when you've got a man who's killed a woman? And how much has been covered up by the WWE?
Oh.
Because then things like, you know, the steroids investigations and thing, really, you start to look at it like, okay, things like Chris Benoit's actual, like, not mental health, but like physical, like psychological health.
The damage
come into question.
Head.
You know, they talk about concussion protocols and all that, and what's it? What's the term they give to the long-term damage from concussions? It's like CTE or whatever.
The thing that's a big thing in the NFL right now.
NFL, UFC,
which current
boxing.
WWE superstar Baron Corbin got a suspension from the WWE for mentioning.
Yep. They don't want to talk about this stuff. We're making billions, and we don't need to worry about these health issues.
We just won't do any chair shots. It's
and
fine.
Murders and my God. But yeah, the dark side of wrestling is a very interesting one. But yeah, I'm horrified because I think it's similar to how my girlfriend feels about certain parts of wrestling when I over-explain the behind-the-scenes locker room stories, and she's like, "Oh, well, why are these things just allowed? Why are these things happening in wrestling?" I'm like, "For the money."
It's all about the money.
It's all about the money, girl. The money. Because we're still selling tickets.
Yeah.
We've never stopped selling tickets. We can sell out Madison Square Gardens, Olivia, don't you understand?
Olivia, they're going to be at the O2 in a few weeks.
I've reached a point now. I think I was a bit like sheepish about Money in the Bank when it was announced. I was like, yeah, like I'm back into wrestling, but I don't know if I'm like, you know, 200 plus pounds back into wrestling.
We got it for 150. Both shows.
150 into wrestling was a lot for me in like February. Now I'm like, fuck, I want to go to Money in the Bank.
It's going to be a great show as well.
I'll be watching it live on your account. It's fine.
I'm glad you get the most out of it. I was going to ask you earlier if you're watching it.
By the way, I'm going to start paying for it. I've got to at this point.
Oh,
I've got to start paying for the
Mate,
I'm
it's
watching
fine.
it every day.
Just buy me a drink once in a while. It's fine. Once a month, buy me a drink, and then it pays for itself. But
is it that cheap?
It's $9.99, as they would say between the years of 2014 and 2019 every 5 minutes. But now it's on Peacock, so
What the fuck is Peacock anyway?
it's what the Yanks use.
Peacock is why I can't fucking watch Raw or SmackDown. And
Oh no! Don't blame Peacock for that. It's always been like that.
well,
That's because
no.
it's Sky Sports and BT Sports.
Yeah, no, those fuckers. Yeah, they're fucking shit up for me. It's really like, how are you dealing with it? I don't know what are you doing?
BT Sport. I live with mummy and daddy.
You fucker.
27-year-old man.
I've got BT Spot. I'm like, fuck. That's the one I'm missing. God damn it. So you're watching Raw and SmackDown?
No. When I'm off work, I will.
So you can only watch them live, though?
No, I just record it on Sky.
Oh, you've got Sky.
But usually
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
just go to YouTube.
What, and watch, like, the 2 minute?
Yeah.
No, man, I can't live like that. That's like...
It gets you the
You
story
might as well
beats.
just fucking watch it on Instagram. That's what Olivia's doing at the moment. She's just following Rhea Ripley on Instagram and knows more about what's going on with Rhea than I do.
I mean, that's more of a you problem. If you're not keeping up with what Rhea's doing.
Listen, man, I'm not gonna start following like 50 wrestlers. I can't. Like, I've got this weird like dumb rule of thumb. I'm like, I'm not gonna start following wrestlers because I feel like I have to start following them all.
I get that, but you kind of need to just follow the main players.
Ah, man.
Instagram
Back in
is
my
the one, though.
day, wrestlers didn't have social media. They had a
won.
poster of the month and maybe a bit of merch.
Maybe an article in WWF magazine.
You know,
if they were lucky.
If
or
you were lucky,
fit.
they had 2 stickers in the sticker books. And maybe an action shot picture of them like jumping off the turnbuckle or something.
Maybe a flex in front of a black wall.
Signature. Fuck me, I miss my wrestling stickers.
Saying. Do you still own WWE Originals, by the way?
No, I had Anthology. My Anthology discs got fucked because it came in that stupid like paper folding thing, and like that thing fell apart.
It's like what are those things? Like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
It was like a cat's cradle. Like I don't know, I think it's ridiculous. But oh man, I actually weird we mentioned that because I did find Anthology on Spotify the other day.
It's fucking just sick, isn't it?
I was doing the dishes with Olivia, my missus, and I just felt like torturing her. I do this every now and again. I'll just be like,
sweet guy.
Randomly remember an old band and be like, I'm going to play you this album that I used to love when I was 14. This time around, it was, I'm going to play you a series of wrestlers' theme songs for longer than you ever normally should hear them.
Now, before I go on, I do want to say, I want to get Olivia's opinions on this. I want to hear which ones stuck in her head and which ones she wanted to tear you limb from limb when you played. But were there any highlights without giving too much away?
Oh, she low-key loves Sexy Boy. Come on, who doesn't?
Oh, who doesn't?
Like, it's one of the greatest songs of all time. I was like, separate to wrestling, like, there's a meme that I always associate to it now. And bear in mind, I pretty much bought Anthology to hear that song in its entirety because I was sick of only hearing the first half. I really wanted to know what the second verse was. It was driving me crazy.
You didn't know?
I'd never heard the second verse. This was before YouTube, man. Like, I bought Anthology on release. It was one of the few wrestling ads that actually worked. Like, Anthology, coming soon. And I was just like, I'm going to buy it. Mom, can I buy that CD? And she helped me save up and went to Virgin Mega Stores, and I bought it on the day of release. I loved that thing. I'm pretty sure I didn't even lose all the discs. I'm pretty sure I wore one of the discs out. Like, 100%. I was that obsessed. But anyway.
There's nothing more ironic than buying WWE Anthology at Virgin Mega Stores.
Man, I love that fucking CDs, man. Music was obviously a huge passion for me, and I realized that, like, I think the music being good in wrestling probably is what kept me invested.
Shout out to motherfucking Jim Johnston, man.
Oh, Jim Johnston is a god.
Legend.
That man is actually one of the goats of music writing.
Yes. It takes so much work to make a song that everyone just goes, fucking come on, as soon as you hear the first note.
But anyway, to get back to the meme of the Sexy Boy, which works for me, which is it's just a meme talking about like mental health, and it's like in the mind of a woman, and it's just like, you know, insecurities and all this depression and bullshit, and then it just cuts to in the mind of a man, and it cuts to a guy cycling on a bike, no hander, with sunglasses on, listening to Sexy Boy, like,
rubbing.
I think you're cute. I know I'm sexy. I'm like, and it immediately resonated with me. Like, I've had days literally cycling on my bike in the sun, feeling like a god for absolutely no other reason other than I'm just in a good mood. And Sexy Boy is basically playing in my head. Like, I am a sexy boy. Yeah. Sexy boy. I'm like, yeah, like, that is pretty much men's mentality. Like, yeah. HBK hit the nail on the head with that gimmick.
You look down, Tommy's not that great today. But I do think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy.
Come on. Oh man, it's fucking, and like, it's so funny that I think even my girlfriend loves that song. She's like, this song is outrageous, but it's so fucking good. It just captures so many good vibes and elements.
Yeah. She walks into the room just doing the Shawn Michaels shuffle, hopping in.
Oh man. And like, we will get into the greatest themes of all time, because I can go on for days about the best themes. Because there's some, you know, I think we should like do like a tier list, like the songs that are better than the wrestler. Because I feel like there's a few cases where some people actually, their songs are too good, and I feel like it might be why, like, because of the song they get a good pop, and like they mistake that for people being actually over, but they're not. People just love the song.
The bell rings and it's like, oh,
This guy sucks.
oh, it's Natalia. Hi, Natalia.
I'm loving all your digs. It's great. It's Natalia. What's wrong with Natalia, man?
Everything.
We'll get into it on another day.
I'll just wait till you hear about a fart gimmick.
You know what? Speaking of terrible gimmicks, there is one person who needs to shout out.
I know where you're going. I'm going to go to the toilet before we do it.
Oh, yes. Go and pee before I depress us.
I was going to...
But yeah, the debut that I found myself revisiting. I'm actually going to bring it up because it's that funny. I've annoyingly researched this, so I actually know the story behind it now. But at first, I feel like we should just react to it. I feel like it's almost just worth just having a good laugh.
Go on. This is 11 years worth of, I'm not going to say trauma, but questioning, I think.
Now, the only reason I was watching this is because I was I was trying to watch the return of Masked Kane. Yeah.
Same guy, really, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't fun to watch, but as a Kane fan, I was like, I know that he came back with the mask, and I was like, okay, let's see how they worked that gimmick.
Yeah. I mean, it was even better. It was 2 masks. Yeah, 2 masks at the time.
2 masks.
2.
Yeah. So what episode was it? Was it?
You're doing it on the network.
Yeah, we're on the network, bro.
Oh man. Let's see, this is the ultimate anti-copyright fucking thing. We're paying $9.99 a month for this shit.
Here it is. So, like I said, I'm watching this to watch Kane coming back.
Was it the same episode?
It was the week after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when he starts feuding with Cena.
Rise above hat.
Or maybe it's a few weeks after. I'm just watching that feud. And imagine my, when I see this.
Anticipation finally landing on Monday Night Raw.
Now I'm wondering, why are they announcing something like this? They never announce someone's debut like this. From Planet Funk. Now I'm going to pause it real quick because my memory of Brodus Clay is pretty much being like the WWE Games jobber. Like, he's a guy you could just batter.
He's not disgustingly low rated. He's a 72. So if he hits his finisher,
you might be in trouble.
Yeah, you're going to have
if
to
you're an idiot
mash hard.
and don't know how to reverse spam.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much how you play wrestling games. You reverse
Absolutely.
spam. But yeah, so I'm like, oh yeah, I remember Brodus Clay. I used to just beat him up, and like, I was like, I know for a fact this guy just lived his life as a jobber and never really got very far.
Yeah.
But it was so surprising to see that he was pushed this hard just for a debut. I'm like, why was he pushed? Why did he get a ring announcement? And only for it to be one of the most horrendous things I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'll play it without the sound so we don't get copyright infringed and so it doesn't ruin our audio. But let's just describe what we're seeing. Like, you know, they've already described the man as coming from Planet Funk, the Funkasaurus Rex. 2 hot women come out all in red.
I mean,
some weird funk music comes out. And...
do you know who Naomi is?
Oh yeah, I know.
It's Naomi.
Yeah. Poor girl. And then just what can only be described, and I think I'm going to say this now, what I can only describe is like the whitest funk dancing I've ever seen. And the man's not white. That's what's sad about it. I'm like, bro, I don't know what your ethnic origin is, but like, I feel like you should know better.
He's a dinosaur. Fucking don't
What do you mean
discriminate.
a dinosaur? What the fuck is that for a gimmick? It's 2012.
He's a fucking lost species.
It's like somewhere amongst like Vince's unused gimmicks was like a side character to go with the fucking Godfather was just lying around, and he was just like, yo, like, fuck it, Brodus, you can have this. Now, I said I I'm watching it and it's making me want to die. Like, bro, sparks and everything. He got like an explosive entrance, and then they just threw him against. You know, a jobber's a jobber when they don't even have entrance music. Like,
That's Kurt Hawkins.
like,
He was one of the edgeheads.
but like when I say a jobber, like,
Yeah,
you know,
like
there's-
he is bottom of the barrel right now.
It's like, you know, we're just gonna be like, oh, and he's fighting this guy. Like, they never do that. You know, it's bad when they're
Yeah.
doing that. But like,
And whatever the fuck this is.
that's what the whole show became for Bros. But like I said, like the sad thing about this is like I kept watching weekly episodes of Raw because I'm watching the Cena Kane beef. This was happening weekly.
Yeah.
They were having him come out and crushing people, and I'm like, no one's buying this. It's like, it's so bad. People aren't even booing. Like, it's just like the sound of confusion and
Bewilderment. Yeah.
bewilderment. It's just like everyone like, what have you done? What have you done, guys? Like, you should have just dressed him up as nothing. You could have just thrown him out there and be like, here's a big fat guy that can't be easily taken down, and that would have been better than the Funkasaurus Rex.
It's funny you say that because that's what they were going to do for about 10 weeks before that. They would play a promo package saying Brodus Clay will debut next week. Every single week it would say next week he's coming. Every now and then they'd sort of do Brodus Clay will not be here tonight. And then they'd play the promo. And then they did that. And that is why he got the whole shebang. Because they went from the gimmick, the package was like proper bruiser, like, Brodus is coming to smash.
Yeah.
He's gonna fight people. Funk is on a roll.
So, what's his name? Who-
Also, do you want to know how I know that? Because I saw that live. I saw it on TV at 3 a.m. when I was 16 years old.
Oh, Steven, I'm so sorry, man. Like, why did you do this? Did you get excited? Were you excited for Brodus? You're like, oh, this guy looks like he could be good.
No, I'd seen him. I knew he was a fucking jobber. I just liked wrestling. I just wish wrestling was good sometimes.
That's it. Chris Van Ville, whatever his name is, Ville. I saw he did an interview with Brodus, or the man that is Brodus.
When was this? Just out of curiosity.
His interview.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was. It wasn't too long ago. It must have been like the last 2 years.
Was he called Tyrus when he did this interview?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And basically he explains, poor Tyrus explains that Brodus Clay and that whole gimmick was a punishment for
Shit.
for basically saying no. The long and short of it is he was asked to be like a babyface or something, and he said fuck no. And, you know, being young and new talent, you don't get to say no.
No, you do what the fuck they tell
Not
you.
in this regime. Now, I'm not going to support this because there's a lot of things I've seen, like, and we one of those people, there's a lot of things that I really I don't stand for in terms of, like, the wrestling culture. Like, there's this whole, like, and I get it. It's a very old tradition at this point, and there's a lot of things that clearly have just been worked into the business. Not worked in, but, like, you know, I suppose grown in the business, and like things that haven't changed. And like sports has this problem, you know, it's almost like my issue with hazing and all these other things. Like,
Yeah.
wrestling's got a lot of horrible, I think, toxic traditions. And yeah, okay, maybe saying no to your boss when you're a new employee isn't something that should be like necessarily frowned upon. Well, no, the reverse. But my point being, to punish someone by just pointlessly burying their gimmick,
Yeah.
it seems dumb to me. I'm like,
Give the guy a chance.
you're still trying to have a show. You've built this guy up. You're going to build up just to ruin him. I'm like, that's crazy to me. Like, whatever. But it's crazy. Like, you know, maybe they could have been more of a compromise. But whatever. Like, it seems crazy to me that like you just intentionally made the worst character just to fuck with him.
I mean, the positive is that it got 2 talented young women a job. I mean, they're both from NXT. Naomi had a great career out of it. The negative is that surely Vince should have realized if he was willing to do this to a guy because he said no, he had no faith in him anyway. He was going to throw him on TV. He was going to make us watch this shit.
Madness. Absolute madness.
It's madness. But over time, he faded out. It's been over 11 years now since that. I'd say even
I
12.
feel like he got put in like some factions, didn't he, or here and there. I don't know. I feel like I
Yeah.
recall him affiliated with some other people.
But-
So like he got away from the Brontosaurus Rex gimmick.
He did. And everyone gets there in the end. But he's been gone for a long time. But I noticed earlier you called him Poor Tyrus.
Yes.
You've heard of the NWA, right?
NWA, yeah. Fuck, that's the
Yeah.
one I forget about.
Do you know who the NWA World Heavyweight Champion is now?
Don't fucking say Tyrus.
It's fucking Tyrus.
No, I'm looking this one up because again we've refrained from looking, but come on, bro. Tyrus. Yeah, there he is. That's Brodus.
I believe
George Murdoch, professional wrestler, cable news personality. What is that? That's a profession now. Where
he's Alex Jones, but he can do a body slam.
he signed to NWA, where he is reigning NWA's world heavyweight champion in his first reign at 50 years old.
Yeah.
Fair play, George. Tyrus, Brodosaurus. Fair play.
He's been the champion for 2 years. And
In
the
his
worst part
first
is-
reign, he's been 2 years.
The worst part is that in his Wikipedia description, that lasts a sentence. You know what last 2 sentences? He debuted on the main roster as Alberto Del Rio's bodyguard. During 2012, he changed his gimmick to the Funkasaurus, a funk dancer. That was his highlight.
Come on, man. You can't just, quickly skim over the Brontosaurus Rex, Funkasaurus, whatever the fuck. Oh, man. But, yeah, we definitely got to get into some questionable gimmicks. In fact, there's some gimmicks so bad that I think you could compare them to fake gimmicks and people might, wrestling fans might not be able to decipher which one, determine which one is the fake gimmick.
Ah. I think Vince McMahon would agree with you personally, which is why, obviously, given the dirt sheets, given the history of time, a lot of the stuff Vince has come up with over time kind of leaked. You got the whole joke of sort of it's such good shit, and him calling people pal. But a lot of the gimmicks he's come up with people for over the years have stumbled onto the internet.
Yes.
But I wondered, can you tell which one is real?
Shit. Have you got some?
I got a couple.
Okay.
I got one real and one fake, just to test your know-how.
Okay.
So, I want you to take a moment to compose yourself. Put your mind in the mindset of Vince McMahon.
Yes.
No, don't touch me! No! But we got 2 different gimmicks here. One is from the 90s. One is from the mid-2000s.
Okay.
There's not a long time between those 2 periods, but in a weird way, they feel like a few generations apart. You know what I mean?
Fucking hell. Honestly, you pitch something from the 90s, anything goes. The 90s was, oh man, the stupid gimmicks were fucking prevalent. It was bad. It really was a testing ground. Okay, we're getting a bit fucking out there with the gimmicks. Okay, we're really gonna, we've got a dead man. All right, we've had the guy with a snake in a bag. We've had clowns. Really, anything fucking goes now.
Anything goes. Fuck it, he's a porn star.
Jesus.
So, I want to say it's 1998, and Mick Foley is in the prevalence of his Dude Love character. Are you coming with
Of
Dude
course, of course.
Amazing. One of the best theme songs ever, which we'll get onto. Camera.
I would love to try and sing it, but I can't. It's like some Bee Gees type shit.
He does the old knee cross. But they're kind of trying to move back to having a bit more of the Mankind character. Mankind won the title in the 90s. It was Halftime Heat, 99. How did Vince want to do that? What Vince was going to do was he was going to reintroduce Mr. Socko And it wasn't going to be a seamless transition into the Mankind character. He was going to do a Spider-Man on this shit. And he was going to turn Mick Foley into a full-blown Mr. Socko. So he was going to wear a giant Mr. Socko costume.
No.
Over time, it would have turned into him becoming Mankind again. And I don't know if it was a whole case if he was going to turn into like the title-winning Mankind again. But that was the idea.
I can almost see it, you know, like he's like an all-white sock, and then like slowly the sock starts growing hair, and then like what? And then like the sock becomes the shirt, and then his hair comes through, and then the mask comes through.
Yeah.
The sock becomes the man kind of. Okay. Potential. Yeah.
Potential, you know?
Potential in that. Okay, what's the other one?
It's the mid-2000s. It's never a good sign when it's the mid-2000s in WWE.
Again, a lot of not crazy, but questionable gimmicks.
Questionable was the word. So, mid-2000s. Christian has kind of... He's not come off like the back of like a good run. But he's challenged John Cena for the title. He didn't win. Vince doesn't like his face. Vince does not like Christian's face at all.
Doesn't like Christian's face.
So how do you get rid of someone's face? You take a giant blue circle and you tell Kevin Dunn, the producer. Do you know Kevin Dunn?
No.
I can't wait to make you hate him. You tell him, keep this blue circle over Christian's face at all times. When he's wrestling, when he's having his entrance, anything. You make sure that Christian is a body with a blue circle for a head. That's the whole gimmick.
Oh no, these are equally bad. Like, so both of these were pitched or like suggested or just written ideas that Vince was gonna have. Vince had.
Neither of these happened.
They obviously didn't come to fruition, but they were Vince's ideas.
No.
Well, no, as in like
one of them I made up.
one of them you've made up, but like the idea being that like, yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go with the one I think isn't real, only because I don't believe that Vince doesn't like his face, is the Christian one. I feel like Vince in the 90s, you know, trying to wean himself off the roids was having some really serious fever dreams, and a man going from sock to Mankind seems more reasonable, whereas trying to CG permanently whilst wrestling is a bit too far-fetched.
But you got to bear in mind, it wasn't CG. It was just a lazy job of just like putting the blue emoji over someone's face.
Which can be done. I know WWE have the budget for that. But no, I feel like that's not the real one. That can't be the real one.
You're
surely.
locked in.
If it's not, I'm actually more horrified at the mind of Vince than I already am.
The real gimmick that Vince McMahon wanted to go with was covering Christian's face with a blue circle.
Fucking hell. No! No, surely not. That's
For real.
fucking crazy.
For real. It's one of those it's an urban legend in WWE, but it was something he wanted to do.
I'm lost. I'm lost for words. I'm horrified. I don't. Why? I need to see like a mock-up for this. I need to see like an example, like even a storyboard. Like I don't even know, but like how was Blueface Christian gonna work?
Well,
And was this just a punishment? Was it even gonna be a gimmick, or was it gonna be like, no, just blur the man, but don't blur him. Put a blue circle on his face because fuck him.
Well, literally, yes. He just didn't like his face.
I don't like his face. Get rid of it. What with Vince? Put a blue circle on his face. I don't care.
Is that a red circle? How will we know? I type it in here immediately. You get stuff like that. It's one of those things that I can understand, though. He's got an annoying fucking face.
But what I want to know is what stopped it? Was it Christian's reluctance? Did Christian by any chance reject this gimmick, or was it like someone turned around and was like, "Oh no, we can't do that, Vince"?
I believe it was just the fact that he wasn't in the same position Brodus was in, where he actually had some leeway in the company.
Oh yeah, I suppose Christian at this point, what he's Christian, former
5
part
years.
of Christian and Edge.
Yeah. I love how you hate Edge so much you called it Christian and Edge. But
I don't hate Edge that much. Don't gaslight me, Stephen. Okay, I just don't love the rated R superstar. Okay, I don't get it. Listen, you're biased, all right? You're completely biased.
of course I am. I've got the same surname as the bastard.
Exactly. That's the only reason.
But I still remember in 2010 when he was coming back, because he was injured mid-2009 thingy. I remember throwing the biggest tantrum on my sister's birthday when my parents wouldn't let me stay up till 4 a.m. to watch that. I walked around the garden. I was throwing shit. I was storming
Just
around.
let me watch wrestling.
He's got the same surname as me.
Just let me watch Edge.
He's going to come out at 27 for 4 minutes and win.
Wow. Oh, man.
But-
well, I think we've established one thing. Wrestling is fucking ridiculous.
Fuck it.
And that's why I love it. It's why it's so
same.
good.
And I think that's why it's kind of coming into prevalence again. I think we're in an age now where meme culture has done it a brilliant favour.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, I mean, we can't even get into it. There's so many meme formats from wrestling alone that I just love. You know, the Vince orgasming, the Vince turning around when someone ridiculous of the opposite word comes in. Like, oh man, it's just so
Him
good.
tugging on his ear in anxiety.
Oh, there's just so many. There's so many great ones, and I think for me, I think people, especially in this sort of culture we have now, the meta can be appreciated more. I think that's been it for me massively. It's like I appreciate the meta as someone who, you know, has an appreciation for, like I said, production and like the way that film and TV is done. Something like wrestling, when you look at it on a grand scale, like and just, you know, just outside of wrestling, explaining wrestling with no context, you sound like a crazy person. You know, like talking about the characters, talking about the meta itself, you sound like a crazy person. Like it's so extraordinary that this thing even exists to begin with, and it's been going on that this long, and it has this many fans. And I've got this theory that, like, deep down, everyone has a place in their heart for wrestling.
Yeah.
You can just get past the fact that it's a bit silly, a bit cheesy, and the whole thing, you know, saying that wrestling is fake is like, it's like irrelevant. That's like watching Avengers and be like, you know, this is fake, right? It's like, yeah, duh. Like, so that's completely
Fucking
irrelevant.
good though, weren't it?
That's irrelevant. Like, that's not going to stop me from watching this.
Fucking Schindler's List. That's realistic. You know what I'd rather watch? Anytime, any place, I'll be there for Monday Night Raw.
And for real, like, yeah. And honestly, as well, I think now the last decade is definitely a great time to be a fan. Like, getting back into it with a girlfriend, not rubbing out anyone's faces. I'm just saying that I get to share this with a partner that I never used to be able to. Like, you know, not that I used to watch wrestling and have a girlfriend. Like, not those two things really coexisted, but like now I'm at a point where I'm really watching it, you know, for the podcast and, you know, almost like for research and out of personal interest, that I'm sharing it with someone who sort of has, again, appreciation for the meta and is appreciating like the production value and, you know, like even down to like the costume design. Like, you know, it's something as a kid I never really like thought about. I'm like, you know, Rey Mysterio comes out in a different mask every week. That's crazy. Someone is making that mask like perfectly. Like,
They'll never get mentioned on TV.
Yeah.
They won't even acknowledge their existence.
it's crazy. Like, so much goes into this thing, and yes, it's $1 billion product, but like at the same time, the effort going into it is really there, and I'm there to appreciate it. That's like, you know, as stupid as the actual show itself is, it's almost like it's like dumb cartoons. It's like as crazy and irreverent and childish because they're mainly made for kids. It is. Someone still has to draw that shit. People still have to do the voices. People are still acting here, like, and that's it's the same thing. It transfers to wrestling. People, they're still practicing. They're still doing stuff that like 90% of people that aren't fit can't do. Like, you know, and that's just the basics. You know, let alone being a high flyer or someone who can actually do the acrobatic stuff. Like, yeah, honestly, wrestling is insane, and I feel like if you get past the basics of, oh, it's fake, and oh, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit weird, or isn't it just for kids? Is why you still like when you can actually get past your ego and try and appreciate something for its art. I think wrestling is up there with like one of the most interesting things to watch, genuinely.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. There never will be anything like it.
It can't be replicated. I'm actually convinced that, like, even though there's other promotions and they are good, I don't think anyone's going to ever be able to replicate what WWE have.
No.
Like, it's impossible at this point. Like, you'll get close. You'll get very close. And many have tried and failed. And I'm not a supporter. I'm not like a diehard WWE, like, WWE's the best. But I'm just saying, as like almost like a social phenomenon, like, yeah, WWE's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why people, even if they're kind of tempted to hop into wrestling, they don't adapt to AEW and stuff like that, quite like they do WWE. AEW, fantastic wrestlers. But you know what their character is? That they're fantastic wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know what The Undertaker's character is? He's dead.
He's a dead man. You know,
He's a dead bloke.
everyone and their mums has heard of John Cena, Stone Cold, The Rock. And like, it's just down to like the iconography that WWE's managed to develop. And I don't know how, I don't know why, but it just works. It just really has worked, even though it's stupid as fuck.
Yeah. And how many things can you look at and say, that's stupid as fuck, but I really respect what they're doing?
Not many things, like Jackass.
Yeah, I suppose. Not the best example, or the best comparison, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's like, it's dumb, and like even down to like they're just a bunch of people having arguments, and they're coming down to, can you keep this person on the floor for 3 seconds whilst on top of them?
I know I'm a better man than you. You were on the floor for 3 seconds.
Like, what more do you want? What more do you want?
Anything comes up, you guys keep them down for 10 seconds. That's the pinnacle of wrestling. You're on your back for 10 seconds.
Oh, man.
But before we go, I wanted to give you a teaser, a couple of the things. All right. Have you heard of Lord Tensai?
Not sure. I don't think so.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
A great debut for you to hear. Do you know much about the Fabulous Moolah?
Yes.
Do you know the dirty side of Fabulous Moolah?
No.
Oh, we're in for a great time.
God.
Aside from those,
this is where I worry. I'm not going to be able to surprise you, but like, there's things that I definitely want to cover if we're doing teasers. I definitely want to get into. I want to get into our favorites and why people are our favorites. You know, like, because I can go on for days about Kane and why I think I have like almost like a personal essay piece about why I think Kane is in the GOAT argument for the dumbest reasons. As in, like, I'm the guy, and I know you're not a basketball fan, but I'm the guy who brings Dennis Rodman into the GOAT argument of basketball, because it's not just about the numbers. It's about the character and the lifestyle and just things that you don't really realize you should be rating. And
I know who Dennis Rodman is, so you got a point.
Kane is up there in the GOAT argument, and there's a solid reason why. both kayfabe and just legit reasons. But we'll get into it.
I want to hear them. Maybe we should have that argument as to who is the underrated GOAT.
Yeah, underrated goats. I feel like there's the obvious goats.
You got your John Cena's, you got your Randy Ortons, you got your Bork Lasers, all those people.
We just say Randy Orton because I wouldn't put Randy Orton in the GOAT argument.
Oh, I would all day. And I say that as someone who didn't like Randy Orton when I was growing up.
I did, but I don't know. He's an A-lister, but he's not an A-star. He's close. We can get into it.
You just Daniel Bryan'd him.
We're trying to wrap this up, but yeah, there's many things. I actually had something. What was it? I did want to go over. Obviously, we need to go over wrestling themes. My God, we need to go into wrestling themes into more detail because there's like, you know, the best wrestling themes, and then there's the worst, and then there's the underrated. Oh man, there's so much. There's so much.
Even
to get
the
into.
most fitting, like. We've spoken about right to censor in depth.
Oh man,
and we will have a lot to say about them, but
I think the main thing we need to make sure that we're always covering is why are they fighting? Because I think that's the one thing I'm loving going back over things. It's like, what is the actual like basis around this whole rivalry?
Yeah.
Like, what? Because you know, sometimes it's obvious things. It's like, yeah, this person took this person's title, or this person. They were a team and then one of them screwed the other. But then sometimes it's like actual insane shit. And it's got to be talked about because I think a couple matches in, you almost forget why they're fighting.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, it's worth talking about because, oh man, wrestling's great. It's so dumb. I'm going to be saying this a lot. Wrestling's so dumb.
And I think the more and more we get into why people are actually wrestling, the more we will believe that it's so fucking dumb. The stipulations that people have. There's kiss my foot matches. There's kiss my ass matches. There's grandma on a pole matches.
Hair versus hair.
That's the most normal one, and it's fucking mental.
Oh man! But for now, I'm just gonna live in shock about the corruption of WWE and Jimmy Snuka.
I hope it stays with you tonight. I hope it lingers long in the mind.
I've got to try not to get spoiled by other crazy controversies. I really, I want to like weekly mind-blowing fact about someone.
You're gonna get it, bro.
You better have them.
Don't Google Moolah.
Don't Google Moolah. I remember that.
Moolah is worse than Snuka.
No, don't say that because now I've got ideas. Like, okay. You can't tell me if it's worse or better. Like each week I've got to come with a fresh mind.
Oh,
like,
okay.
You gotta, you know, we'll do a comparison. We'll be like, oh, okay, so on the snooker scale,
Snooker snail.
well, no, it's always going to be the Benoit scale. Let's be honest.
Always.